Welcome to Fun Facts Daily, your source for just the good stuff. Monday through Friday, we're bringing fun facts and news you can use, all carefully curated to uplift and inform. So give yourself a break, relax, and learn something awesome in just a few minutes every day. Hi everyone, I'm Kyle Wood, and today we're going to be learning all about lobsters. But before we get into the facts, let's warm up our brains with a little challenge to see if you can tell fact from fiction. Consider this. We often think of lobster as the ultimate fancy meal, usually reserved for birthdays, weddings, and other special occasions. But would you believe that in early American history, lobster was so despised that it was nicknamed the cockroach of the sea and served only to prisoners and servants? In fact, some say there were even laws passed to prevent people from being forced to eat it more than 3 times a week. What do you think? Is this an actual fact or just too good to be true? We'll find out at the end of the episode. Now for your word of the day. Our word for today is benthic zone. That's BENTHIC space ZONE. The benthic zone refers to the lowest level of a body of water, such as an ocean, lake, or stream, including the sediment surface and some subsurface layers. For creatures like the lobster, this zone is their whole world. It's a unique habitat characterized by high pressure, low temperatures, and often very little light, which has forced the animals living there to develop incredible biological adaptations to survive and thrive. The term benthic comes from the Greek word benthos, which literally means depth of the sea. Scientists use this term to categorize creatures like crabs, sea stars, and lobsters to distinguish them from creatures which swim in the pelagic zone, the middle or upper layers of the ocean. The benthic zone is essential to the planet's health because it acts as a massive recycling center. Organic matter, often referred to as marine snow from the upper layers of the ocean, falls to the bottom, where benthic organisms like lobsters break it down and return nutrients to the ecosystem. This is why they have such heavy shells and powerful claws. They're built for a life of heavy lifting and navigating the rugged terrain of the seafloor. Time for your daily high five, our top 5 fun facts about lobsters. Number 1, lobsters don't age the way humans do. Unlike humans, who eventually stop growing and start to physically decline, lobsters produce an enzyme called telomerase that repairs their DNA indefinitely. This means that as they get older, they don't get weaker or lose their appetite. In fact, older lobsters are often stronger and more fertile than younger ones. Because they keep growing throughout their entire lives, the only real limit to their age is the amount of energy it takes to shed their massive shells. Eventually, a lobster becomes so large that the process of molting or shedding its old shell becomes too exhausting for its body to handle. This metabolic exhaustion, or the risk of infection during the molting process, is usually what leads to their natural end. While most lobsters in the wild live for 30 to 50 years, some specimens have been estimated to be over 100 years old. These centenarian lobsters can weigh over 20 pounds. Number 2, lobsters have a unique way of experiencing the world. They actually taste with their legs and smell with their antennae. A lobster's body is covered in tiny, highly sensitive hairs that act as sensory organs for chemical detection. Their walking legs and small pincers at the end of their legs are packed with chemoreceptors that allow them to taste food simply by stepping on it. This is a vital adaptation for a creature that lives in the dark, murky depths of the ocean floor, where visibility is often very low. In addition to their legs, lobsters use their small pair of antennae to flick through the water, capturing chemical signals from long distances. This flicking motion is essentially the lobster's version of sniffing the air to find a meal or avoid a predator. By combining the data from their legs and antennae, they can create a complex chemical map of their surroundings. This allows them to navigate perfectly to their next meal, even in total darkness. Number 3. Not all lobsters are the classic red that you often picture. They actually come in a wide range of colors. In the wild, most American lobsters are a mottled greenish-brown color, which helps them blend in with the rocks and seaweed of the ocean floor. But due to rare genetic mutations, fishermen occasionally pull up lobsters that are bright neon blue, vivid orange, or even calico with yellow and black spots. The blue lobsters can be kind of hard to come by. The odds of finding one are estimated to be about 1 in 2 million, but perhaps the most incredible are the split lobsters, which are colored perfectly down the middle. One side might be brown and the other side bright orange. This occurs in about 1 in 50 million lobsters. It's considered one of the rarest sights in the entire ocean. The most famous rarity, though, is the ghost or albino lobster, which lacks all pigment and it's completely white. These rare colors are caused by the lobster's body producing too much or too little of certain proteins that bind to their primary pigment. Number 4. Lobsters migrate in perfectly straight lines across the ocean floor, sometimes as far as 100 miles. While we often think of lobsters as homebodies that stay in one rocky crevice, many species participate in massive seasonal migrations. Spiny lobsters in particular are famous for forming long conga lines where dozens of individuals march single file across the seabed. Each lobster uses its antennae to maintain contact with the tail of the lobster in front of it, creating a unified front against predators. These migrations are often triggered by the change in seasons or the need to find better breeding grounds in deeper water. Scientists have tracked lobsters traveling more than 100 miles during these journeys, navigating with an internal magnetic compass. They're able to sense the Earth's magnetic field to keep their direction true, even when there's no visual landmarks to guide them. And our fifth and final fun fact for today: a lobster's dominant claw can exert pressure up to 100 pounds per square inch, which is enough to crack a person's finger. Lobsters are usually right-handed or left-handed, meaning they have one massive crusher claw and one smaller, sharper pincher or seizure claw. The crusher claw is used for breaking through the hard shells of clams, mussels, and crabs, while the pincer claw is for tearing softer tissue. The muscles inside the crusher claw are some of the strongest in the animal kingdom, at least relative to their size. The development of these claws is influenced by how the lobster uses them when it's a kid. If a young lobster has plenty of hard-shelled prey to practice on, its crusher claw will grow larger and more powerful. Interestingly, if a lobster loses a claw in a fight or to a predator, it has an incredible ability to grow back through regeneration. Over the course of several molts, a tiny bud will emerge from the joint and eventually become a fully functional, full-sized claw once again. Now for some news you can use. If you ever find yourself at a restaurant or a summer bake and you're served a whole lobster, here's a little pro tip for getting the most meat out of it. Don't ignore the knuckles. Most people focus on the big claws and the tail, but the knuckles, the joints that connect the claws to the body, actually contain some of the sweetest and most tender meat in the entire lobster. The knuckle is protected by a very thick part of the shell, so it stays succulent and doesn't dry out during the cooking process. To get to it, use your nutcracker to gently squeeze the joint until it cracks, then use a small fork or lobster pick to slide the meat out in one piece. It takes a little more effort, but true lobster aficionados know the knuckles are the hidden treasures of the meal. Finally, the moment you've been waiting for. At the beginning of the episode, I asked, is it true that lobster was once considered such a lowly food? It was not only a meal for the poor, but there were actually limits on how much prisoners could be subjected to it. Believe it or not, that's a fact. In the 17th and 18th centuries in New England, lobster was so incredibly abundant that it would wash up on the shore in piles 2 feet high. Because they were so common, they were viewed as a cheap protein source for people who couldn't afford real food like beef or pork. There are historical accounts of indentured servants in Massachusetts winning court cases that ruled their masters could only feed them lobster a maximum of twice a week because it was considered a cruel and unusual punishment. It wasn't until the mid-1800s, with the invention of refrigeration train cars and the rise of tourism, that lobster's reputation began to change. People from inland cities who had never tasted fresh seafood began to view it as an exotic delicacy. As demand went up and the lobster population became more managed, the price skyrocketed and it moved from the cockroach of the sea to the king of the menu. Now, I hope you enjoyed learning a bit about lobsters with me today, and be sure to tune in every weekday for even more fun facts. Fun Facts Daily is an Airwave Media podcast. It was written, recorded, mixed, and edited by me, Kyle Wood. Thanks for sharing a part of your day with me. Be sure to follow Fun Facts Daily on your favorite podcast app so you can keep the good stuff coming your way every day. And if you like the show, please do me a favor and leave a kind rating, review, or just tell your friends about it.